Today I wanted to take a look at a little game, kind of an older game. I don't know when this came out actually, but it must have been like 2015. It's called Elysium, and it's designed by Brett J. Gilbert and Matthew Dunstan. And it's a card drafting set collection game where the cards, before final scoring in one area of your tableau, will have the opportunity to do particular actions on your turn throughout the game in the other part of your tableau. So what this is basically a game of drafting. What we're trying to do is draft from this pool of cards that will be out here. We're setting up here for a 2-player game, but it does scale 3 times the number of players plus 1 card, because each player will be drawing 3 cards per round plus one of these special quests. And what you're trying to do is gain cards that will go into your area above this board, which is called your domain, and then at a particular juncture in each round, you have the opportunity to move them down into the lower area called the Elysium, the game's namesake here, and you're trying to form sets of 1, 2, 3 in a particular suit. There are 5 different families, which are suits, in the deck per game. There are 8 total in the box, and you can mix and match. And the other thing that you might want to do besides making those family sets is, if we grab some cards here, you might want to make some level legends, is what they're called. They're called family legends and level legends. And what that is, if you can't tell, is the same number in multiple different suits or multiple different families. So the way the game works, and a super interesting part about the game, is when you draft these cards, you have to use these pillars that you have in your possession. You have 4 of them, 1 of each color here, and each card shows a particular color or colors on it. Let me just grab a couple more. So here's an example of one that would require you to have 2 things. So if I wanted to draft this 3 of Hades Cerberus card, I would need to have in my area a blue pillar. Since I do, it's the first card I'm choosing, of course I do, I'm able to take it. There's no cost to the cards, it's just having this. Then, after you've drafted a card each time, you decide to discard one of your 4 pillars. And it doesn't have to be the one that you used to buy or acquire this. So I might say, you know, if it looked something like, so if maybe it looked something more like this, I could say, oh, you know what? There's a blue still out there, there's yellow, and there's green, but there's no more red, so let me get rid of my red, even though blue was the one that I most recently used as a prerequisite for drafting. Then the next player goes, they take a card. Maybe they take this one. And we come back to me. So here's a different card. It requires a green and anything else. So maybe I want to take that. Now I don't get rid of 2, I still only get rid of 1, so maybe now I get rid of my, I don't know, my blue. And you keep doing this. You're going to take 3 cards per round. If you don't have the requirement, you'll get a citizen card, which will cost you 2 points if it makes its way down here at the end of the game, but it will help you fill out those legends. So you're going to get 3 cards, and you need to take one of these. In a 4-player game, there are 4 of them, and each one requires a different color. In a 2-player game, there are 2, and red and blue will get you this one, and green and yellow will get you that one. Either or, you don't have to have 2, just 1 of red or blue, and 1 out of green or yellow. In this case, this player here is left with no choice because they only have green or yellow. So they can only pick this one. If the other player were to have taken this one, then they have no choice. They're going to get a broken quest, which is way worse because you see those numbers, they're lower. You don't know what they do yet, but lower is worse. Okay, so then once we're done, say I've taken my 3, this player's taken their 3, and this card gets discarded. And now, yeah, so say we're stuck with that, and we've gone through all of our pillars. So what these do is they determine who's going to be first and second player at the end of the round. If you get a broken one, you're automatically last. And they also determine how many cards you're going to be able to move from the top to the bottom. That's that symbol. So in this case, I can only move 1. And say I do, I'll put this one down. It costs me the same amount of coins as it has value on its card. This is the coin symbol, so you get a coin at this point as well. Whereas if you got the front, you would get 5 coins and you're able to move 2 cards down. So you do that, then you reset. And you do that 5 times. And each of these cards as well has a special action on the front or ability. So if we're looking at these, we have a few different things. Here's a good selection. There's one more type. There it is. I think that's all of them. So you have your basic ones that say lightning bolt. Lightning bolt means immediately when you take it, you get the stuff. You have this infinity symbol, which means as long as it's up here, this condition is in effect. So this is whenever you take or transfer a citizen, you're getting a victory point, as long as it's up here. Once everything goes down here, they lose their ability to do the card powers. So there's a give and take of, you have to get cards down here into those sets in order to score at the end of the game, and you only have so many chances to do it, but you want to keep them up here to use their powers throughout the game. So that's interesting. For example, this one, it has this turn action, this activate symbol. So you can activate this once per epoch, or whatever these are called, and that gives you an action that you can do. This kind is the same thing, however, it has this snake symbol, so you can only activate these when you have 2 of these snake cards in your domain. And they're a little bit rarer sometimes. So I would have to have a second one, and then I could do both of those at some point in the round. Then we have this kind, it's called a Chronos power. All this means is that it's an endgame scoring, so those are good candidates to jump down into your Elysium sooner. And then you have these are one-time uses. So when you get it, you put one of these rings on it, and at any point during your turn, in a future turn, at the same turn, whatever, you throw this away, you do the action, and now this card has no abilities anymore. However, there are some cards that will restore a ring to a previously used card. And then maybe you move that one down later. And what I was talking about earlier with citizens filling in is a citizen can fill in a legend like that, and that will help you because at the end of the game, a run of 2 gets you 3 points, a run of 3 gets you 6 points. Citizens cost you 2 points, so you're benefiting a little. And then you can get up to 5 of a kind for the sets of 1 number. You also gain points throughout the game, as you saw, and there are these little bonuses for the first player to complete. For example, here, a green set of 1, 2, 3 gets 5 points, and then there's one for each of the 5 families in play, and then there are bonuses here for having the greatest number of these level sets. So 9 points for the most 3s in a set, 6 points for the most 2s in a set, and so on. So as I said, there are 5 families per game, one of which, I have this other board over here, is called Apollo. It gives you the special addition to the game. It's almost like a mini expansion that's included, where you can see 4 cards that are coming up in the next round. So you have a little bit of planning available to you. Then there are cards like like the Poseidon deck, this blue deck. These are more take that, you know, competitive. You're going to hurt your opponents. Then you have these Hermes cards. I think they, I'm not sure what they do exactly. And then there are these Ares cards, the red ones, and they let you get a special, also like another small included expansion to the game. They let you get prestige points, and the player with the most prestige points gets the most points at the end of the game. It's sort of like a majority thing, which probably works better at higher player counts. So I had not included that in this pseudo 2-player game. In any case, you go through the 5 rounds, you add up your points at the bottom, including any of these, including any of these, including anything you made, and that's it. The player with the most points is the winner. And that's Elysium. It's a really interesting, fairly simple, but also with enough complexity in it to stay interesting drafting game. You know, it's pretty basic. You're seeing cards out in this pool of cards to draft. You're pulling them into your domain area, which is kind of like a hand area, and then putting them down into your Elysium area, which is your scoring area, and you're managing the timing of these things, and you're using the actions available on each card, the 5, 6, or 7 different types of cards, really, to help you decide which ones to keep, which ones to transfer, in addition to the very simple set collection scoring, or straight flush 1, 2, 3 scoring. So it has that simplicity, it has that complexity. What I also really like, there are a couple things that are really cool about this game. So there's that sort of mix of simple and complex, but the fact that you have 8 different decks here of these different families, and each one has its own sort of style of play. You know, the Poseidon is very combative, it's aggressive against other players. The Ares, it has that extra prestige. Apollo has the extra oracle area. Athena is very like community driven. Basically, you get something, your partners get something. Hephaestus gives you more abilities that have to do with transferring cards. Hermes, I believe, this is the one that lets you reuse some of your abilities, things like that. So each one has its own flavor, and since there are 8 different decks and you only ever use 5 in a game, that means that you can have a variety of different feeling games as you play through, or as you play it multiple times. Another thing that's really cool, these pillars. So I like the fact that it's a simple drafting game without a currency. You're not paying for different cards. You don't have to have the right amount of money to buy card A or card X or Y or Z. But you do have to manage these little pillars. You have to make sure you have this red one when you're taking this red and green card. You got to have these 2. But then you have to have this yellow one to have this card. So I like how you have to manage that, and especially more so in a multiplayer game, really, especially taking the quests and holding back the ones that are necessary for you to take the quest you want, especially since those quests, these tiles here are called quests, if I didn't mention that earlier. They have different amounts of gold and different amounts of transfers, so you have a plan in mind for which cards you want to send down and how much they're going to cost you, and you have to hold the pillar that's necessary for that quest, and you have to pay attention to your opponents and which pillars they're keeping or which quests they've already drafted, and sometimes you have to draft sooner or later. So the pillar system is super cool, and that's probably like the main thing about this game. If I had to like say what's the main feature, the main mechanism of the game, it's using these pillars for drafting. Also, I really like these little rings. You don't have to keep track of the one-time power that you use. You don't have to turn it over. You don't have to. I like that they add this, because there are games where you have like a one-time power, and you still need some of the information off of the front of that card, but now the card's flipped over, or you've done something else with the card. I like this. Just a nice little component extra that's cool. And all the different scorings for doing things first or second or having the most. And I don't know if I mentioned this with these are the ones for having the most of the number 3 cards in a set of 3s. Is there's a race element to it as well, because not only do you have to have the most, but if you have the most sooner, then if someone matches you, they don't take this away. They have to exceed the high already. So that's really cool. There are a lot of different ways to score. There are the little like mini expansions that change the game more than just the other decks that are like mean or less mean. The fact that this one introduces a whole new mechanic, and Apollo introduces a whole new mechanic or mechanism. It's really cool. I like that. Now, some of the things that aren't great is the font on the cards. They're like so little. It doesn't bother me that much, but it bothers like literally everyone else. Especially if you're trying to really strategize and pay attention to like every card out there in the drafting pool. So you know, okay, is that 2 gonna be better than that 2 for me, for what I've got in my domain already and what I'm planning to do? So that's something that can be a little rough, especially since the cards only point in one direction, and if you're playing 4 players, you can't all sit on one side of the table. The other thing is that sometimes, and this might be like just a player strategy problem, but I think the game kind of doesn't encourage you as much as I would like to really make use of a lot of the powers. Sometimes I might be playing and I feel like I'm really just focusing on the numbers, because that's the ultimate end game scoring, is making the sets, and that's important and that's fine. But sometimes I feel like I just have to ignore the powers, and I play to get the sets, and then I use the powers that come to me, like tactically. So I guess, I mean, it could be viewed as a positive even. There's like a strategic element and a tactical reactionary element. But that varies game by game, and I think it's more of a problem in a lower player count game because you see fewer cards. In a higher player count game, you have way more cards on the table. You know, you're gonna have 13 cards in a 4-player game. I think 3, 6, 9, 12, 13. And in a 2-player game, you're just gonna have 7. So you're gonna see far fewer cards. But overall, like I said, I would call this a commendable game. This is a 4 out of 5 on the GamerNode scale, and I would recommend at least playing it, probably picking it up. It's usually pretty cheap. I think it's roughly around $30 at this point. It's old, it's 6 years old now. But if you have a chance to play it, I would play it. You might actually be impressed, more than just pleasantly surprised. You might actually be really impressed, and you might love it. So that's it. That's Elysium. Thank you guys for watching. I don't know why I have this rag in my hand. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button if you like the video. Subscribe if you want. Hit the bell if you want to see the videos as they come out. And until next time, I'm Eddie Inzauto. Have fun out there.